Good morning, LinkedIn. Yeah, thanks for joining me, everyone that's in. Obviously, we'll probably have a few stragglers, so give it a couple of minutes before we kick off. But yeah, today I thought I'd jump on and run through our new PMO change and transformation report. Obviously, this is only across the public sector, so if you're not in the public sector but you're keen to learn a bit more and interested to move into that space, it's definitely worth a watch. Hopefully everyone on here will know what PMO change and transformation is, but if you don't, in short, essentially PMO change and transformation is the initiatives put in place to adopt new strategies, new technologies, like new tools across the organization. And these are the guys that essentially run it behind the scenes. Obviously you do have more hands-on deck people, but these are the ones that oversee it and make sure it all runs smoothly. Throughout, if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. If anyone wants to share some of their own insight, yeah, pop it in the little comments bit, and we can run through that sort of towards the end. But yeah, I can't imagine this will take too long to kind of run through. I know it's booked in for maybe half an hour or so, but yeah, I can't imagine it will take longer than about 15, 20 minutes to kind of go into this detail. And if anyone does have any questions after, feel free to pop me a message. We can always have a chat. Likewise, we can, yeah, kind of go from there. I can send this round after as well for everyone to have a bit of a read through. I know it does help a lot of people within various organisations if they're needing to get signed off on budget, stuff like that. Insight from someone that specifically works in the sector is definitely helpful. But yeah, let's crack on. I hope everyone's in now. If anyone is a bit late, this will be sort of posted up online after, so you can have a little read through. But here we go. Very excited. Yeah, PMO change and transformation. It's our UK sort of talent salary report. It just shows all insights across the public sector and what we've seen really within the last 12 months. So moving on to the first part. So sort of within 2023, there was a massive growth within PMO change and transformation. From a little tool that we use, we actually saw it's the biggest area of spend across central government in the last 12 months. That is essentially where there's all of these different departments, trusts, local governments that are looking to adopt, well, essentially new technologies is the main part of what we've seen, where you might be looking to move over to the cloud or deliver various programs, because if anything, they have to keep up with modern times, especially improving all of their services and make it a lot more friendly for the users and everyday citizens, we'll call them. But yeah, it's all fueled by these ongoing digital transformations. This is a lot of the time very contract driven, to be honest with you. It's where people will be coming in to deliver a certain project or program within the space. So yeah, there is still a lot of permanent employees that do work across this, but from what we've seen, the majority in the public sector are contractors. And yeah, it's become a lot more important for these types of people, really. It ensures adaptability by getting contractors in, so you can get people in for a specific period of time. You have various different budgets you can kind of play with then as well, rather than overhauling and getting huge amounts of permanent people in that you might not essentially need after that period. And yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's all due down to the like challenges within the sector. People having to change, especially with like AI and all these things popping up nowadays. This is essentially where they're having to adapt and change constantly. I know we're kind of in the pre-election period as well, which might have put a spanner in the works for a few people and their projects that they have on. But this essentially is, after we come out this pre-election period, there'll be loads of new sort of projects and programs running, and there'll be a lot kind of popping up for people across the sector. So yeah, we're excited to present this report. Hopefully it's very insightful for those that are looking, for those that are key decision makers, hiring managers within certain organizations. But just to put some statistics on there, so this covers both permanent and contract. There's 5,952 professionals. That's just based on the job titles of like PMO, change and transformation on LinkedIn. Obviously, when we first created this report, might change now, might be more, might be less. I know a lot of projects and programs have come to an end with the end of financial year, and now it's pre-election period. I do know quite a few people out of work at the moment, so it might have changed. There's the 59% is the percentage of females within the industry. This is based across the country, and 1.8 years is the median tenure. So that's basically how long someone would usually stay in this position. So that's both permanent and contract. So, for example, most of these massive programs do take good 18 months, 2 years, and you'll see a lot of these contractors do stay on for the duration. But now, yeah, we'll move on to the next part. Obviously, this is all data we've collated from LinkedIn, but we can get further insights based on conversations that we have with people in various organisations. But the other thing we've seen as well is that where it's kind of come from the top, where everyone has to go back to the hybrid working model, especially within sort of like central government, there has been that kind of increase in office time, which usually is about 2-3 days, which can sometimes jeopardise the amount of good people you can get through the door, really, because if someone has to come in 2 days a week from London, I doubt they're going to travel from Newcastle, let's say. So, yeah, there still are some organisations who are a lot more flexible with that and do a couple of times a month, once a month, which can open up the pool a bit more to getting these really good contracts in, because essentially you want to get someone that has delivered this somewhere else and smashed it out of the park. So, and yeah, a lot of these digital transformations that are underway, we've seen across like trust, for example, all these new EPR systems that are being put in place by 2025 is a necessity. So, and then central government are just looking to adopt new tools. I've seen loads are still going through these cluster migrations across various departments. But it's all these ever evolving challenges, really, and these technological advancements that are needed and play a massive part. But yeah, it's usually a lot of candidates move from department to department, to be fair, because they all follow each other and they all do the same things. So a lot of the time they can kind of request the rate they want, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's the same even from a permanent perspective as well, that even for in the public sector, for like a strong like senior project manager, you're still looking at a good sort of 75k that have had experience, in-depth experience delivering different projects and programs within certain areas. So that's a bit more on sort of just like an overview as to what we've seen. And then we're moving down onto location. The one thing I saw from this is, funny enough, this is where literally most of the departments across the UK are based. So you notice that like the likes of like DWP, Home Office, GDS, this is where all of their offices are based. So it clearly shows that that's where most professionals are, because that's where they have to go into the office and whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting to see, because even Bristol is popping up more and more, especially Leeds as well, as a bit more of like a tech hub. One, because obviously this is where the offices are based, but the other thing I've also found from it as well is that it is just popping up more of a tech hub in general, not just public sector, private sector as well. That's just where a lot of offices are being put up and whatnot. So moving down on to the next part, the main employers, obviously NHS is massive. So I think it's just why it's labelled as NHS, because there's so many trusts, so many different departments, but 328 professionals, that would just be from a point of PMO, change and transformation. Obviously, if you looked more into it and was like project manager, program manager, there'll be thousands. But yeah, just based off of those three job titles, no surprise that like HMRC, Home Office, that they're all up in the mix, because they have huge programs that are always on running. Most of these departments, regardless of what government gets in, will still have programs they have to deliver. I had a conversation the other day where a certain department, central gov department, have just had budget approved to have sign off until 2028 to deliver certain programs. So just those things are still running in the background, regardless of who gets in, who's spending what, that kind of thing. So there are still some elements that are massively key for the government to kind of move forward, especially with the whole digitization and improving various different platforms for everyday kind of use. But yeah, it's interesting to see. These are only the top guys, but obviously there will be a lot more across the sector if you looked more into specific job titles. And moving on to the juicy part, the money. No, this just covers day rates at the moment. I do have insight on salaries, which happy to talk with anyone around if you had further questions on what kind of mark you should be looking at or where you should kind of position yourself. A lot of the time, obviously, it's people that have worked their way up, but also it's like I mentioned earlier, it's the niche projects, or they've worked on something that now another organisation's implementing. But you can clearly see kind of the rates of what we'd be looking at on a contractual basis for people that are just coming in to deliver something in specific. These are kind of standard rates. Obviously, within government, it does mainly fall inside IR35, but it really does depend on what it is you're specifically coming in to do. So that's why there's a bit of a flex and a bit of a margin there, so that it really depends whether you'd be going inside or outside IR35, to be perfectly honest with you. The other thing I was going to mention is that PMO and sort of like program, a lot of people have said to me that aren't really too clued up on it, if it's similar, or is there a need to have sort of a huge program team if I've got a PMO team and vice versa. The one thing I'd say with that is that there is actually a big difference. So PMO obviously oversees the actual standards, ensuring sort of like good efficiency across all projects, making sure they're all up to the organisation standard, making sure things are being delivered on time. Whereas program is a lot different to that. Program is focused on strategic coordination to achieve sort of a more larger complex for the business objectives. So that would be working on bigger projects, which make up obviously one program. But PMO oversees all of that, so the whole different part of it. But yeah, within the private sector, you'll see that there's not actually huge teams other than the big organisations that have these projects. But yeah, other than that, it's mainly a lot bigger within public sector, because some of the programs, the multi-million-pound programs they'd be working on. Also within one that is quite surprising, but well, not for me, but other people that might not be within the space, is more local government hire a lot of these, especially the London boroughs. They're similar in a way to like central government in the fact that they, the kind of detail that they need and the actual expertise they need, they all do the same thing, and they do tend to follow each other. That's more so that obviously they have guidelines they need to follow set by government, but also if one council's doing really well in how they're delivering their services or their outcomes for the year, then you'll tend to find that most will kind of jump on the bandwagon and kind of copy that. There's a few contractors and even permanent sort of employees as well that I know that have just moved from council to council, just doing the same thing over and over again, because that's essentially what they all are looking to achieve. Like within the last 12 months, I couldn't even count how many I've heard that have gone through migration over to Azure, for example. And it's all kind of to do a lot of the side with their data, but cyber is getting a lot bigger as well. So you'll even find that, especially with all the kind of attacks that have happened recently, that there's a lot of different programs within that. But yeah, it is interesting if you have a little look further into this. This will also help. I'm not sure if anyone wants to take some screenshots or anything, but we'll send it around anyway. These are what you should kind of be looking at based on the level you should be at and based on what you've delivered, really. But yeah, moving further on than that, that's it. So it was only going to be a short and sweet one, because there isn't loads and loads to cover, but this is one of I would personally say that the biggest parts within government, because without PMO change transformation, nothing gets delivered, nothing gets implemented across the organisation, especially the change and transformation part, which I haven't really spoke about, it's just actually implementing those tools further. So once all the hard work's been done, putting it into the organisation, it's then all around sort of bring the organisation together, upskilling, training, ensuring there is that period of change where people can get used to it, training, things like that. So it all does play a massive part in ensuring that these projects and programs that are implemented don't just go to waste and no one has a clue what's going on. But yeah, nice and short little live. If anyone does have any questions, anyone want to share any insight, anyone wants to call me out, feel free to put some stuff in the comments. But yeah, other than that, it was a nice little live. I'll send this round to people that joined, and yeah, post about this a bit after for anyone that missed it. But we can hopefully do this again when we've got a few more insights. So yeah, thanks everyone for your time. If you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in now. If not, have a nice day. Enjoy the sun wherever you are, and yeah, speak soon.